Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. As you can see here, I am with the Xploder. This is my 2000 Ford Explorer XLT 5.0 V8 all-wheel drive. Relatively good shape. You know, not perfect, has lots of little things to do as any 20-plus-year-old car may have. And today we're going to focus on some interior rejuvenation and modifications. Recently, maybe 6 months, 9 months, something like that, I had ripped out the entire interior. I took the seats out, the console out, back seats out, carpet, ripped all the carpet out, replaced it with brand new carpeting. May be able to see that here. So all the carpeting is new. I, trimmed it and fit it myself, and deep cleaned the seats, and actually, added some more foam and whatnot inside the seat because the bolster was collapsing, which seemed common. And overall it's pretty good, but I have some things I'm going to plan on doing here, and so that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to put on a nice black suede dash cover. First I'm going to give this a good cleaning with some interior detail cleaning spray. Once I get that all cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and get the suede dash cover installed. Hopefully it goes on pretty easy. It looks like it's mostly Velcro and some double-sided 3M tape. Shouldn't be too bad. And of course I'm going to remove this stupid microphone thing here. And another thing we're going to be doing is I'm going to be yanking out this radio bezel. These vents are kind of flopping around. I had chopped it apart. There used to be a satellite radio piece that was attached up here that broke off, and that's why it looks completely mangled. I believe this is sprayed down with some bed liner spray at some point. And so I'm going to be pulling this bezel out and tossing it. I will probably be stealing these buttons and switches if they are in the best shape. I believe they all work. And I have a new used radio bezel that's in a little bit better shape that I'll be sanding down and probably plastic dipping. And another thing we'll be doing is I have some sweet carbon fiber overlays. They're going to be going over a lot of these areas here. Down here around the cup holders, around the switches over here, and that'll be going on as well. And really that should wrap up most of the stuff we're planning on doing in the interior. Later on I'll maybe doing a video. I will be installing a wideband gauge right here. This car at one point was turbocharged, and I had a wideband and a boost gauge. No longer turbocharged, so I just have the wideband, and that lets me get the car remote tuned, which it definitely needs. And then we will just give everything a quick, cleaning, quick wipe down, because I do have some dust from car sitting for so long. And we're gonna go ahead and step inside. I'll show you what we're talking about, and then we'll get this thing going. This will be the replacement radio bezel. It's in pretty good shape, but you notice there is some peeling and some other minor issues with this thing. So what I'm gonna be doing is removing these buttons and switches. I believe these vents maybe come off. If they do, I'll remove those. If not, I'll just tape them off, and I'll give this thing a good couple layers of sanding, and then I'll be adding some plastic dip, a couple coats of that, give it a nice little texture, and it's kind of universal, and then reinstalling either these buttons or the buttons I have in my current radio bezel in the car. After that, here is the suede dash cover. Pretty nice. Got it off of Car ID, I believe it was, and has a nice feel to it. Doesn't look clunky like some of them. Doesn't look like it'll be ugly. And here is the Velcro attaching with the 3M, and this just Velcros down in a few spots on the dash, and then that will hold this piece here down in place. Pretty nice overall. Next up, here is the carbon fiber overlays, similar to some of the overlays I've done in my Camaro ZL1. And maybe if I can get some lighting in here, you see what we're talking about. They seem pretty nice. They got a nice 3D effect. They're supposed to be real carbon fiber. Of course, they are the flexible overlays. And we're gonna go ahead and get these installed. And I got the full kit, also off of Car ID. Tons of parts here, pieces. I believe there's 12 pieces in all. And with installing carbon fiber overlays or any overlays, you want to make sure you clean off the spot real good. Clean it down with some alcohol, cleaning pads here. I think they include some. And then once you do that, you want to heat up the back of the adhesive after you peel off the adhesive backing, and then you install it, hold it in place for a few minutes, and then they should adhere and be good to go. I have a number of those type of overlays in my Camaro's. Got one over here, and they've been holding up great for a year. So I don't foresee any issues with that, and it should hopefully then kind of clean up some of the ugly or old and aged looking parts of my interior inside the car. So probably going to start off with knocking out this dash cover. This should be the easiest thing. And to start that off, I'm going to go ahead and clean the dash in the car and then remove some of the stuff that's in the way, and then we'll get going and getting this thing installed. I have cleaned top of the dash and get ready to pop this off because I do notice a good amount of grime that's kind of behind here, and I have to, I'm replacing this anyways. And it's a set of clips back here, and what you can do is you can try getting a pry tool, like an interior trim tool or something like this, maybe something like this, and try to pry it off, or you can just yank it off with your hands. But we'll try the trim tool here, and there we go. And all right, and pretty simple, pops out, and of course takes the radio with it. So you can bring it out a little bit, unclip all of your plugs and whatnot, and then we can go ahead and fully remove this. Radio and the radio bezel is out. It'll be a little bit different if you have the stock radio and not an aftermarket one like I do. And you have a ton of plugs you have to get before you can pull this all the way out. So you can see back here, I do have this aftermarket radio, and you have to remove all the side control switches. Then you have your cigarette lighter switch. You have another plug right there. And then you have all the related radio plugs. So now this is all open up. It's gonna take time to maybe dust all the inside of this, and whatever strikes your fancy. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up a little bit, and then we're gonna go ahead and get the dash cover, get that lined up, see how it looks, how it will lay up, and then I'll try to come up with the best ideal of where I should put the Velcro pieces, and then we'll go ahead and start applying those. Just a quick generic test fit, and one thing I did notice is the little dash crack I got going on here is not covered. So it won't be underneath the dash cover. Of course, this is super loose, no Velcro's in place, so it's kind of fluffed up and not looking super good. But overall, I mean, it looks pretty nice, it feels pretty nice. I think it'll look pretty decent. I'm not huge on dash covers in general, but I think this will be fine once it's fully attached. What you have to do is you kind of got to wedge it between the dash and the window, so you might have to use an interior trim tool and kind of just push it and tuck it in there. It's real tight on the right side, kind of hard to tuck in there. This middle, the left side seems like it tucked in pretty easy, and once you tuck it in far enough, it should, line up like the vents around the vents here. And it should be pretty much flush with the top of the console. And I'm thinking I'll just put some Velcro in like key locations to pull it tight onto the dash. So I'm gonna go ahead and try some different trim tools to see how this would look, and then we'll go ahead and get some 3M, the double-sided Velcro that came with it here, and some strategic places, probably like in the corner, probably a little piece up here, on the border, and then maybe a couple pieces like in the mid or the mid back, but you don't want it too far back there because this thing will stick and you won't be able to tuck it into the windshield. So keep that in mind. This is the replacement radio bezel. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna disassemble this. Nothing super complex, but I need it disassembled so I can work on getting this sanded down, and I can plastic dip it without worrying about getting anything all over the rest of my components or the vents or anything like that. That just means more cleanup. So pretty simple. First off, if you want to remove the right side buttons here, these buttons right here, you're going to want to go ahead and just remove the Phillips head here, and then this will just pop up. And then over here, you can just remove these little, it's like a little plug or whatever. This is just a junk one. I'm going to reuse the one that's with the car. So this is when they, I guess, uninstalled this from the junkyard or wherever, they just chopped it right out. So I'm gonna remove this, and then once this module's out of the way, this is out of the way, Then you can work these clips here to get this vent off. It looks like 8 clips, and that will lift the vents apart. And it looks like you can't really remove the cigarette lighter, at least easily. I'll mess with it, but if I can't, I'll just put a little piece of tape in there so it doesn't get affected when I plastic dip it. And all these will come off, and it should be pretty stripped down at that point. And then we can get to sanding this, and then we can plastic dip it. So I was able to remove the cigarette lighter thing. It just screwed on. This piece is on the back, and this piece goes through the front, kind of like that. And this actually is threaded on there to hold everything in place. Sorry, it's like that. So this actually screws into it, so you just want to put your finger inside of the cigarette lighter, hold it in place. Then you can unthread this piece, and then you can pull the cigarette lighter unit out the front. Just make sure you remove the cords and stuff. And as you can see, all of these pieces have been removed. I'm going to go ahead and knock out the vent here. Be very careful with the clips. You don't want to break any clips. And I'm going to go ahead and then get the vent removed. I have the vent removed. Unfortunately, one of my clips was already broken. I didn't break it myself. I didn't get that amazing privilege, but 8 clips, real easy. Just push a little flathead in there, pop it out, work away. I was able to work the top part and then start working my way left to right on the bottom, and it just snaps right out. These vents are pretty good. They don't wobble around, which is awesome. It seems like a lot of these wobble and flop around like an old pancake or something. So I got that removed. Here's the buttons. Real quick note, the top one for your rear wiper, you do want to pull out. You want to pull this little button off, and then that will let you then pull it through the panel. If you flip the panel around, you notice this does not remove. I think these are epoxy welded in place. So you cannot remove that, unfortunately. So I will probably put some tape in here and a little piece of tape cut onto this. And, you know, maybe I'll tape off the inside of this, or maybe just at the area where the radio will sit. As you can see here, there's a gap, so probably just fine putting it at the back part, just so that I don't have any issues making this radio sit flush on this panel. Other than that, the panel has been stripped down pretty much as low as you can get. I'm gonna run some sandpaper on this, get this smoothed up, then roughed up just a little bit. So pretty much just gonna get all of the peeling areas. See how it's peeling here? You don't want that peeling underneath the plastic dip, because then your plastic dip might come off. And so I'll sand that smooth, then I'll rough it up a little bit, and then we can go ahead and get it plastic dipped. A little bit of an update on the radio bezel here. I actually spent a couple hours getting whatever that rubberized coating that was peeling off. I'm not sure if it was a plastic dip. It didn't feel like plastic dip. It didn't come off like plastic dip. And I couldn't sand it off. I couldn't do anything to get that stuff off. So I ended up having to pretty much peel it off with my thumb and just almost like rub it off like an old sticker or something. And it took a couple of hours to get the stuff off. Like I even tried one of those 3M sticker goo removal wheels, Goo Gone, and a million other things. It would not remove this rubberized material. So anyways, I was able to get it off eventually. I then sanded it, and I've been hitting it with some of this Dip Your Car Hyper Dip. I happen to have a number of cans of this stuff laying around for when I'm getting ready to do a blackout on my wife's emblems on her Mustang here. So I went ahead and tried using this stuff. I was gonna use just regular plastic dip, but the stuff was splattering everywhere. I don't know what the heck was with the can I got. This stuff goes on a lot smoother. Of course, it's not perfect. I do have a number of like small little blemishes and whatnot, but I'm not going for perfection on this. Sorry if it's hard to hear me. I have a fan here. I'm hitting it with some coats. I'm probably gonna do one more wet coat on here, and I've been blasting it with my shop fan here. And so that's pretty much where I'm at with this. We're gonna go ahead and hit it with one more wet coat, and then we're gonna reassemble it, get the radio installed it and everything, and we should be good to go with at least the radio bezel. On top of that, I still have the carbon fiber overlays I'm gonna be putting in, and also I'm going to knockout finishing with the micro suede dash cover. So we're gonna go ahead and jump back in the car. As you can see, we're inside the Xploder. I got this fit up pretty good. It's kind of hard to see, maybe. Kind of see. And I mean, I think it's about as center as I can get it. And what you pretty much need to do for this is you want to get one of these trim tools and you want to kind of work it. Some of the spots is real tight fit between the dash and the windshield. I guess a ghost is closing my doors. But here we have to get the trim tool, kind of wedge it between the dash and the windshield so you can get a nice flush fit. Of course, it, you know, it is rippled up a little bit because I have yet to add the Velcro. And I think I can just hit it mostly on the edges. And you know, I don't think I need to add any way in the back by the windshield or anything like that. So I'm gonna focus on the perimeter on the front and sides here, and then maybe a couple pieces just kind of center line. And then once you cut this to fit with some scissors, you know, little squares or whatever, you're gonna go ahead and then just apply it directly to the dash, and then it will stick to the material itself, as you can see here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start getting these fit and cut, and we'll come back once I have all this Velcroed into place. Here's the micro suede dash cover. Mostly in place. I would recommend, if you get the same kit that I have, buy some additional the Velcro with the adhesive on one side. Definitely not enough. I want to add some more here to make sure this is a little bit more flush, but pretty much I just worked my way from my right, got it on there pretty good, and then just kept pushing and smoothing this up and then working my way over. It's not quite fit perfect right here, but I mean, it doesn't really cover it, you know, blocking the airflow, so I think it's fine. I did want to pull this tight. Maybe I could have pulled a little bit further to the right, you know, but I'm gonna probably pick up some more of the Velcro adhesive. I'm gonna add some more around the border just so it's a little bit tighter of a fit, probably some more down here. But overall, I mean, it fits pretty good. Just wish it would have maybe came down here or something, but it's, you know, that's just maybe because I have that crack in my dash. So yeah, anyways, turned out pretty decent. I'm not big on the dash covers, but you know, older car, and I think it looks okay, better than, you know, the old beat up dash. Maybe it'll keep the rest of the dash from cracking as it gets older. And yeah, so go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead get the carbon fiber overlays, and we're gonna see where all these apply to the vehicle, get those attached. Just make sure you get some alcohol wipes or whatever, and you wanna wipe down the surfaces before you apply the overlay, so they actually will stay in place. Here we are, we're in the hatch portion of the Xploder. Here is the overlays. As you can see here, I got the full kit pretty much, and this gives you kind of a one-to-one of what you need to do. It does detail that you want to use these alcohol wipes, or just use alcohol if you have a bottle of it. And then you have some primer here for very curved areas. Be careful using the primer. Actually, it's like a primer adhesive promoter, because it can melt the plastic underneath it. So keep that in mind if you want to use that, and really only save it for areas where you don't think you can actually get the overlays to adhere properly. Now also keep in mind, you do want to clean all your surfaces that you're going to be applying the overlays to very well, especially if you have any kind of you know, protectant, sealant, or anything like that, wax or whatever on your different you know, locations that you'll be installing these. So just make sure you have that cleaned up, and then you want to then use alcohol. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll start with the driver door. I believe that is this one right here. I'm gonna go ahead and just, you also want to make sure to take a look that these will fit as expected. Then you go ahead and get everything cleaned up. Here is the driver side panel that goes over where the window switches, door locks, and everything is removed from this kind of, it's a sticky board or whatever. You peel off like a saran wrap layer, then you have all these stuck on there. Now these actually aren't adhered to it. They actually have the 3M backing here, and it's like a flexible, you know, it's a real carbon fiber, but it's the flexible kind. It's not the hard overlays as expected for this price point. I paid significantly more for hard carbon fiber for the ZL1 in there when I did the overlays on that car. Now go ahead and do a quick test fit. See, everything lines up. You know, it's not going to be a super tight fit. They're not going to fit, you know, between individual buttons. It just gives you a nice kind of an overlay around everything to kind of set it apart. So you just kind of pretty much eyeball fit it. You know, hey, does it look like it's going to fit? To have the right number of cutouts. And as you can see here, it does fit, you know, pretty good. Doesn't go around the handle or anything like that. So everything should line up pretty nicely. I already wiped it down with some alcohol. I'm gonna go ahead and get the backing removed, and then I'm gonna get this thing fit. Make sure you just kind of semi-tack it in place. Once you do, get everything lined up just how you want it before you actually start, you know, pressing it down. And then you want to hold it in place for about a minute for it to adhere. Driver's side overlay is in place. It adhered pretty good. Only downside is this wind keeps blasting here. The door keeps trying to slam shut, and my instructions that show where each piece went disappeared into the multiverse or something, because it has vanished, and I walked all around, I couldn't find where the hell it went. Thankfully, most of these things are self-explanatory of, you know, what goes where. And I'm sure that they have it online as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna knock out all of these. Procedure is gonna be the same. I didn't use any adhesive promoter, and it stuck on really well. Just make sure you hit these with alcohol, apply them, and then so yeah, after we snap back here, hopefully all of these will be installed, if I can figure out where they all go. The carbon fiber interior overlays are installed pretty smooth. You can see here, this is where we left off at, and this is what I have since added. A lot of carbon fiber overlay around the gauge cluster, kind of the central point here. Also in the center stack here. Some kits do come with one for the radio. I thought I ordered that, but turns out I ordered everything but that, so that's why I'm also plastic dipping the radio here. Piece here, kind of see the passenger side, and then also as for your rear doors, if you selected the 2-door option. Overall, they went on pretty smoothly. We'll see how they, you know, how long the longevity is for that. But I think this should be good, because I have some of my pieces in my ZL1 are similar to this, and it's been a long period and no issues. I did add some adhesive promoter around this piece here, because this is some kind of rhino liner type coating on here. I didn't think this may have issues adhering to that, so I used some of the adhesive promoter on this. Also used some here, because this is a sharp curve here. Didn't want this peeling up, so I added some around here. And I also I want to say, I think that was it. I think mainly this piece here and over here. So just keep that in mind when you're installing it. If you want to see like real in-depth installing these overlays, check out my interior exterior videos for my ZL1. I install a number of these, and I go pretty much step by step exactly as I'm installing each part. Of course, it's a different car, but if you want to see you know, exactly how it goes down. And I did actually end up using heat. So what I did is I would heat up the pieces in my garage with my heat gun with the backing on. Backing would kind of shrivel up, show it's got a decent amount of heat. And as I walked out to the Explorer, I peeled the backing off and then applied it. But make sure you do test fit each piece before you remove the backing and before you heat them up, just to make sure it is correctly cut. You don't have any kind of weird defects or anything like that. But overall, I think it looks pretty good. Helps clean up my interior. Goes nicely with my black micro suede dash cover. And really, I just got to finish up with the radio bezel rewiring and whatnot to really finish up my interior for this video. I will also be doing a quick video on replacing these steering wheel controls here that my wife's father somehow, the month he had my car years ago, he punched his fingers through these, even though they were brand new. I mean, they were a couple months old, and somehow he still blasted them out of place. So stay tuned for a video for that. It's pretty simple. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get back in the garage, check out how the plastic tip's looking, and then we'll see if we can go ahead and reassemble it. Plastic dip on the radio bezel is done. Not perfect. It's a very smooth laying plastic dip, that hyper dip from Dip Your Car, compared to, I guess, the cheap plastic dip you get from, you know, AutoZone or whatever. So you can see it's almost looks like paint. few minor blemishes. I could have done some more wet sanding, but I'm pretty much done with it. Good enough. I might put a carbon fiber overlay on it eventually anyways, but turned out pretty good. Here's the old one with the damage, and it has like almost like a rhino lining coating on it. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the vents, the little pieces, the cigarette lighter components all back into place on this one, and then I'll look about getting the radio moved over to the new bezel. So nothing too exciting. I did have to do some minor repairs. One of these clip broke off, and a number of these little corners are kind of cracking, so I just put some marine epoxy on there to hopefully reinforce everything. So hopefully this holds up when I reattach it to the car. Guess we'll see. And yeah, I'll pretty much get everything moved over, and we'll see if it holds up or not. A little bit of progress on the radio bezel. As you can see here, I do have the defrost, fog light, rear wiper switches all in place. And I wanted to point out real quick that to get a double-it-in radio like this one here into the factory bezel with the typical install kit, which includes pretty much just two plastic plates that go on the side and kind of use the side lip here, and then to kind of hold the radio in place. You have to Dremel out the upper and lower little lip there. So you can see here, I just used a Dremel, the sanding orbiter looking thing, I'm not sure what it was, and I pretty much just zipped down these lips here on the bottom and on the top. Make sure you do not remove the side lips, those are going to be needed. And once you get those done, then you can fit the radio through and clamp it in place with the typical double-din install kit. Now, another thing to note on the switches here, you see this little label thing here, this little piece fell out of my radio bezel when I was working on it, and it turns out that it is actually pretty much, I believe it's plastic welded in place. You can kind of see right here, and once if it comes loose, it won't just snap back in place. So I pretty much just used some marine JB weld that I had laying around, the same stuff I used to kind of reinforce this broken clip and the corners here. And so yeah, you can't get it back in place, just you're gonna have to JB weld it back in if you want that. Now, if you recall earlier, this whole mechanism here is a single piece held on with two screws, and it lines up with some posts here, down here, and so you just make sure you don't break any of those posts, because that'd be more things you have to worry about. Now here's the back side of the lip that I Dremeled out. It's not beautiful, but it's going to be hidden behind the radio, so not a big deal. And yeah, I'm going to keep on putting these pieces back together, and then we'll take a look. I wanted to point this out real quick. One of the posts for your module switches over here, you're going to have to snip it. This one right here, snip that off, and you're going to need to trim the little bracket. Kind of hard to see here, but there's a little bracket right here that fits over that post. That looks kind of like this. See right here? But unfortunately, that will interfere when you put on the radio mounting plate, which actually snaps over the lip here. So if that post is in place, it won't be able to do that. So you need to remove this so this can clip into place and you can fit your radio. Radio bezel is back together. Turned out pretty decent. I got my little USB charger set up here, back into the cigarette lighter. Buttons are all back in place. Radio is installed, vents are installed. Remember, for the vent, it's like 8 clips. It just pushes through from the back, it snaps in. A couple of my clips are already broken. It still seems like it's holding up all right. They're very fragile, and these things being 20-something years old, just age, everything becomes more brittle. So my plastic dip surface is decent. I still may try to put it like an overlay over this and see if it adheres to the plastic dip. That's to be seen. Have a little bit of a defect here. I guess when I was putting in the cigarette lighter, I nicked it a little bit with my screwdriver, because you have to almost push these 2 clips and to get it pop into place. You can see it back here. It's pretty much, you'll push in the centerpiece of the cigarette lighter through the front, and then this housing here in the back will actually screw on, will thread onto it, clamping it into place. You can kind of see here is the plates from the install kit for the radio. I only have 2 bolts. I might try to find 2 more that'll fit and thread those into there on both sides. Worked out pretty good. And you kind of see here, I'm hoping that kind of a JB Weld mess right there, I hope that this holds up when I snap this into the dash. Those are pretty vital clips for holding everything in place nice and firm. Now, when it's light out tomorrow, I believe, I should be able to then get this thing installed into the dash. We'll see how it hooks up. I'll hook up all my radio stuff back, including my rear view, reverse camera, all that fun stuff, my USB ports. I have another USB in the front below the radio. Of course, HVAC will fit in here, and then we'll see how it looks. Hopefully it holds up, being it is plastic. It's not gonna be nearly as durable as, you know, straight, you know, primer, paint, cleared setup, which, you know, may have probably been a better option, but you know, it's what I had on hand without spending any extra money. And overall, radio sits pretty good. It's relatively flush. Don't really see, you know, crazy gap or anything like that. Just a little bit on the top, because I did have to drill all that out. But once the dash is behind there, there's no light, it should look pretty good and seamless. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing installed into the Xploder, and then wrap up this fairly lengthy interior restoration refresh combo video. Back in the cabin of the Xploder, have the radio, Bezel radio combo unit all put together right here. And really what I just need to do is get everything plugged in and then get the bezel snapped back into the dash. This is going to be the test if my relatively poorly patched clip will actually snap in and hold in place, or if it will fall apart. Hoping it holds in place, I can get this thing clipped up and we can wrap this up. And the quick thing to note, of course, your wiring may be different if you're using a, you know, wiring harness, or if you're splicing directly into the cables, or any number of other different things, radio differences. So just keep that in mind. And I'm gonna do this off camera because I'm gonna have to kind of balance this, because these cords and cables are relatively short, especially the ones I believe for the cigarette lighter and the antenna. So I'm gonna have to kind of hold it up here, plug everything in. So it's not gonna be anything exciting to see anyways. So I'm gonna kind of maneuver it over here, get everything plugged in one-to-one. All these things are only one-way connection, so they can only connect into one socket. They can't be, you know, accidentally plugged into the wrong thing. They just won't fit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get everything plugged in, and I'm gonna see if I can get this bad boy locked back into place on the dash. Radio is installed. I believe everything is working. Temporarily, I have the microphone kind of hanging down here. I'm going to tuck it up and through here, and then probably bring it around and mount it on top of the steering wheel or something like that. It's unfortunately a super ugly setup, so I'll do something to make this not so you know, obvious. But I do want to be able to use the built-in calls and whatnot, so I'll probably put it right here, and then, you know, we'll call it a day. It was up here earlier and it was hideous, so getting rid of that. And yeah, so everything seemed like it snapped in pretty good. I didn't notice any of the clips giving out as I was clipping it in, so I think we're good. My new vents here are much better. The old ones had erectile dysfunction or something and hung limp like this. So anytime you hit a bump, it would just fall down, and I'd have to keep readjusting them. These ones seem like they're still stiff, as you could say, and don't move around easily. You have to actually put a little bit of force on it to adjust them. And everything else seems like it's holding in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook my battery up, start this up, and see if the radio actually comes on and if everything's working or not. Started the car back up. It's partially disconnected right now. When I say disconnected, I mean my air filter system, mass airflow sensor, all this stuff is disconnected because I am doing the AC on the car, and I have all out of the way as I replace the compressor. So The car is not optimal right now, but the radio has came on, and it looks like the USB lights are glowing, so those should be good. You know, the radio itself is nothing fancy, pretty basic radio. Let's see if, okay, the reverse camera still works. If you want a video on how I got that set up, check out the video up here for my custom reverse camera setup. And yeah, so the radio seems good. Everything looks pretty good. Interior's been freshened up. I did order some more Velcro adhesive backing. I'm gonna border this a little bit more to make it even better than it is, but it sits pretty flush. I haven't driven it with the windows down or anything like that, so you know, the extra Velcro will help with that. And we got some radio action going here, but it sounds like all the speakers are working. And yeah, so overall, happy with the overall transformation. We're gonna go ahead and get back in the garage for a minute and wrap this up. That will finish this video up. Sorry this one ran long, but I think I say that for every single video I do. I seem to run on a little bit too much. Anyways, the interior transformation, modification, whatever, upgrade has been completed on my 2000 Ford Explorer, the Xploder. Quick summary on that: it was just a micro suede dash cover, carbon fiber overlays for the interior coverings, and then we swapped the old broke looking bezel and put in the new one, well, new used one I got off eBay pretty cheap, that I plastic dipped and transferred over the double din radio from the old one into the new one with some modifications covered in the video. So yeah, as always, feel free to like, subscribe, share. Stay tuned for a lot more videos on the Xploder in the near future on the 84 SS El Camino. Of course, always got some new content coming from the 21 ZL1 Camaro. And then I have my NV 3500, not pictured here. My daughter actually has it at the river. And then my wife's at work in her 2019 EcoBoost Mustang. So go ahead and we'll wrap this up. Have a good one. As always, peace.